Okay, can we all gather right now? This is our final lecture today, and then we'll have question and answers after that, and then a final call to action. So everyone, you have a paper. If you could put your name and your information on that paper you have in your booklet. If you could take time to do that right now, it would really be helpful so we can stay connected. We need to get liberty right. That was my feeling from the last lecture. Okay, so right now, Securing America's Future. Dr. Frank Kaufman will continue. Thank you, Dr. Kaufman.
Thanks very much, Mike. All right. I'll wait till, I know conversations are hard to wrap up sometimes. We're close. I think we're down to 2 now, and the other one is almost inaudible, so here we go. Good. All right, so this is the final presentation of the day, and as you know from this morning, my work is to offer a counter-proposal or different options or possible ways that we can see our way through the horrors that David has become so skilled at burdening us with. And I think he's extremely listenable and intelligible for a white racist. Oh no, supremacist. But I feel far more oppressed by his attractiveness, but which is also, he's to blame for that as well. So, okay, so I've entitled this The End of Woke Culture, A New American Future. Woke ideology embedded itself in, as we've heard, in every part of American life. Gramsci and Dutschke of the Frankfurt School called this the idea of embedding itself in every part of human life, the long march through the institutions. They were members of the Frankfurt School, but that long march they were speaking of as Marxism. That's part of the reason why a lot of the people who are trying to defend us and speaking on our behalf persist in seeing this as the work of the Frankfurt School, because the work has taken over all the institutions, which was predicted and invested in by the Frankfurt School. But the Long March has now become the ultra-relativism of woke ideology, not Marxism, as David made clear. So for simplicity, we'll call this pernicious ideology wokeism. And while it looks foolish at times, it is far more virulent and invasive than its rationalist and materialist predecessors. Insisting on calling today's internal enemy of America Marxism, in my opinion, is a sure way to lose the battle and lose our country entirely and fast. A big part of this reason of this seminar is to make clear that we face a more difficult enemy that we cannot overcome if we do not clearly identify it and understand it. The ideology attacking America and free societies everywhere is no longer Marxism, any more than an F-35 Lightning II is a World War II P-51 Mustang. Both are planes, they both fly, they were both built for the same purpose, but it would be a mistake to go to war without knowing the difference. So far, we have seen the binary, which I call the binary, the twin rails of choice in response to excessive social disorder or injustice. One rail removes God, one rail renews faith. To remove God of rationalism led to the French Revolution and the Reign of Terror. Reformation and awakening side eventually blossomed in the birth of America and the eventual spread of freedom and democracy worldwide. Later, the Industrial Revolution led to Marxism, which put matter higher than both God and humans. This produced violence, tyranny, mass death, and incarceration. The faith and reform side created a century of growing race and gender equality. These free societies not only improved the conditions of human equality, but also they successfully crushed Soviet communism. They won the Cold War. Some still cling to Marxism for some odd reason, but the current inner enemies of America keep only small parts of Marxist tactics. David accurately described our current challenge as that of a post-atheist ideology. The attack from the left is now more serious, more complete than earlier revolutions. What is now removed is not God, but rather meaning, order, and even language itself, as David made perfectly clear. Total race and gender hatred are now everywhere, all the time. The progressive left is not against the rich. It is against thinking and speaking. It forbids dissent. Here is something worse than Pearl Harbor, just in case anyone missed it. We're still trying to get our brothers and sisters out and free where we belong. The current conservative habit of constantly, as I mentioned this morning, of constantly pointing out the hypocrisy of the left is futile. It causes us to lose time and come closer to losing our country. As I said earlier, we're spending too much time on social media arguing with strangers, talking to ourselves, and so forth. The progressive left follows a long-range, carefully orchestrated strategy that removes the possibility of justice and honor in our country. It offers nothing to improve human life. It is perfect only at destroying. The only thing it does, and again, I'm repeating what David made perfectly clear, the only thing it does is divide, deny, undo, break things, and disallow speech. Pure wokeism began in a tiny house of mirrors created by language philosophers. It created pure relativism with no shared basis of being, no shared basis of speaking, and in this way rocketed into contemporary affairs, radical isolation and alienation. This is the fruits of no shared space. Not even that language has a referent, that words have meaning, has been denied. And the intensity of the alienation that produced fuels and feeds the ideological underpinnings of the fluidity of gender and things like that. People are isolated and thus more vulnerable. How did this obscure philosophy rise to become such a menacing power that it is today? How could this small, self-absorbed little club, like David mentioned, he studied with these people. I was also in school at the same time, and I was also studied with some of they just flew around, attended academic conferences, debauched, like Foucault, my gosh. They're debauched individuals, and they're celebrated everywhere. It's a tiny little club that is kind of on a mission of self-destruction. Being a philosopher and a writer whose purpose is to establish that there's no possibility of meaning. It's like founding a religion of three men whose only tenet is celibacy. You know, it's like its job is to destroy itself. When the Soviet, and as David just explained, when the Soviet Union failed, race and gender theorists adopted critical theory. This is a match. I was going to write a match made in heaven. It's a match made in hell, because the race and gender hustle is built on permanent victimhood. In short order, postmodern critical theory arose from the grave and became the prevailing ideology of division, leading the charge to destroy America with such surgical precision that it makes Marxism look like a kid with a Nerf gun. By bringing the war of violence and vengeance into race and gender, these new fans of critical theory were able to do what Marx could not. It is not the oppression from corrupt clerics and monarchs. It is not the oppression from capitalists and bourgeoisie. It is the ubiquity of oppression, exactly as David just described. That is all there is. It's like it's more all pervasive than air itself. That is all there is power and oppression. Born white, born male, born heterosexual, born able. This is an oppressive category, isn't it? It's on the upper side of the chart, and I don't know where it would fit into the multicolored kaleidoscopic chart. Who decides? My feelings decide. There is not even a ground of rational explanation needed. In fact, rational discourse, again I'm repeating, David, rational discourse is a form of racism, correct? Good. At last I'm a racist, usually I'm on the other side of the, okay. So where do binary options, so where do the binary options that we've been discussing and I've been presenting so far fit in with this new and perfected forms of anti-human and anti-America agents? The rejection of God dealt with inner life, the French Enlightenment, rationalism. Human reason was placed above God and faith. The second rejection of God placed matter above God and human beings. Wokeism is the full flowering of both of these evils, resulting in the complete ruination of the ground of being human, of human decency. Wokeism attacks both spiritual life and physical life. The lodestone for today's war against hopeful life is a war against identity. Identity. Do you identify with your thoughts, your opinions, your feelings? Do you? Yes, you do. We do. That's me. My thoughts, feelings, opinions, it's me. Do you identify with your body? Yes, we do. We try to look nice, we look in the mirror, we wash our face. Our body is an important part of who we are. That's the completeness of ourselves. Our spiritual side and our physical side, that's me. So the woke revolution, as an attack on identity, is the full flowering of the Enlightenment that we learned about from David, and the full flowering of the Marxist revolution, which is on the physical side, on the survival, the means of production. So it is a war against identity. And by now we know the options. We've seen them again and again. The anti-God option results in tyranny and genocide. And the pro-affirmation of that which is the simple notion of we're created, as the founders accurately declared as an axiom, is the positive side. The bitter invasion of woke ideology is an attack on our whole being. The attack is total. The enemies of wokeism are no longer a selective, small, abusive class. We are no longer to be exterminated for anything we've done. We are to be exterminated for how we were born. Our identity is evil. Born white, born male, born heterosexual. Just being who you are is your crime. And to deny your crime, again as David said, is proof of your guilt. The French and Russian revolutions were directed at oppressive political systems. The woke revolution focuses on the destruction of culture and human relations. You can't speak, the identity politics, standpoint theory. It destroys culture and human relations, not political systems, not economic systems. It focuses on you personally. You personally. The source of evil in the world is your existence, not anything you've done. Even though this seems to be checkmate, it feels like checkmate. When David was speaking, it felt like checkmate. Even so, the options remain simple. Either there is a creator, God, or God and faith, or you replace that with something lesser. It remains that simple. We've seen 2 times when the option to affirm the reality of a creator responded with the elevation of human life. We face something that feels like checkmate, that looks total, and yet the option remains the same. What is the origin of your identity? If your identity is the source of evil, your identity, how you're born, if that's the source of evil, then what is the source of your identity? Is it your color, your race, your ethnicity, your culture, the activities of your ancestors, your opinions, your station in life, where you live? Are these your identity? These are what are called secondary identity characteristics. They're secondary. The antidote to this is the same as it's always been. The same as it's always been. Our founders had it. They got it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Your identity is that you are created by God. You're created by God. That's your original identity. Do you want to know who you are? Are you Chinese? Are you Nevadan? Who you are is you're equal, you're free, and you have unalienable rights. That's your identity. That's your primary identity. You're created. Then it applies to you, no matter what you look like, no matter what your ancestors did. That is who I am. And you say, oh, that's an interesting identity. You think that just you can just say, I'm created, that's where I get my identity from? Yes, yes. Oh, that's very interesting. And then what kind of person does that make you then? It makes me equal to every other person equal to me. That's one. It makes me free. It gives me inalienable rights. That's what my identity is. And so the identity given to God by each person, the primary characteristics of our identity is equality, freedom, and rights. That is the direct and entire antidote to the thoroughgoing relativism of woke ideology that David just described. The possibility of universal equality and universal freedom come from the fact of our being created. This truth will ultimately end woke efforts to divide and pit human beings against one another. The only question is, will we be able to do this in time and to a sufficient degree to save our country and our future? Affirming a creator, makes you a champion of equality and human rights. Every other thing evidently seems to make you an enemy of equality and human rights. It's that simple, once again. Identity politics, on the other hand, eventually pits every person against every other person. That's the full flowering of standpoint theory. And that returns us to Hobbes' Leviathan, the war of all against all, which, as we saw earlier this morning, Hobbes described as life in this world as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And so I don't think you mentioned this. What was Hobbes' solution to the fact that life is like that? Does anybody know? Central government. The establishment of central government. Sound familiar? That is why our time feels so intense right now. Divisiveness is everywhere and constant. What biological organism is meant to live under such circumstances? And that's the circumstances of our life today. We walk outside in the midst of infinite beauty. We come back home and met by a grandchild or your puppy or something. Your life is surrounded by infinite beauty, and the human social relations are what did I call it? Was it divisiveness everywhere and constant? Even in our preschools, where kids should just be running in the sand and come back with a little bruise and get a little kiss on the elbow, or that's life. And yet in the name of what diversity. Oh, that sounds lovely. Equity, lovely, sounds lovely. And what? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. How much more lovely can you get? And you've created a society of absolute hell. Absolute hell. And insincerity and inability to even communicate. Under Marx, so we'll see how much worse wokeism is than earlier, simpler ideologies like Marxism. Marxism, the only people that needed to be exterminated were just capitalists and industrialists. They're just a small little group of people. Actually, a small group, the 1%. Actually, if you want to be a murderer, go back to being a Marxist. You have only very few people to take care of. Marxism killed over 100 million people, in just 70 years. I showed you this slide already. In just 70 years, with its focus, a tiny little group of people. Now, how much if wokeism completely flourishes, and now your enemy is not a tiny little group of people like industrialists or monarchs or clerics, tiny. And Marxism managed to kill over 100 million human beings in just 70 years. What are we going to do when everybody is an oppressor? When every single person alive, by dint of your birth, is in the oppression? And so when people talk about depopulation, it's no small thing. Yes, this is the agenda of the WEF and the kind of dehumanizing environmental tyranny. They say about 1.2 billion people is a good number of people to have on the earth. Anybody ever heard this? Anybody ever heard this? 1,000 people? 500,000. And what I say, 1.2 billion? I think I'll stick with my chances. No. Oh, on the Georgia Stones, no. But I'm talking about contemporary Harari. I'm talking about contemporary speaking philosophers that are speaking right now. So people say, "Oh, that sounds about right. Look at the productivity of a farm." And yeah, but I mean, aren't there 8 billion people? Well, don't ask me about that. You know, I'll get to. This is a problem. So now attacking human identity has resulted in horrifying forms of self-hatred. And this is what David was talking about, the transgender movement. Because your identity is evil. How you were born is evil. And so now, in hostility to one's identity, people are carving themselves up into tiny little non-functional little pieces to try to deny their birth identity. The reason why the transgender movement is such an intense threat. It's the highest embodiment of adopting wokeism. If identity is the problem, then the transgender people are the full flourishing of the hatred of identity, even their own. The transsexual medical experimentation on people and children is the ultimate conquest of woke ideology. So I hope the seriousness of this battle begins to sink in, and how pressing it is for believers and people of conscience to find a path beyond the small differences among us and for its solidarity quickly. It's urgent. So what can be done? I've only repeated, we've come to a wildly, an exponentially worse ideology, and I've only repeated the same thing. Declare a creator, say I'm created, and that the American founders had it right. Yes, that's true, had it right. Is that sufficient at this juncture now to win a battle in which we're at least 30 years behind? The fall of Marxism, like early 90s, right? Was this insight that I've identified twice in the earlier revolutions, is it sufficient now to meet an ideologically that is exponentially more threatening than the prior two revolutions? Let's look. What is sufficient in American roots to meet and overcome wokeism? Affirm unconditionally and live courageously in the birth and truths of our nations founded, created equal, endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights. That's a first step. That's a necessary step. That has to be a boldly and insisted upon and constant state of our being. I refuse any other definition of myself. Oh, you're white. Oh, you're male. Oh, you're heterosexual. I get accused often at least of 2 out of 3 of those. But I don't buy any of them. I don't buy any of them. I have only one identity, the common sense one, created. And then from there, I have secondary characteristics. And I hope I bring all of those secondary characteristics to the help of other people I know. This is what I hope. This makes every person great. It makes America great, and will do so forever. It is the first and foremost requisite to protect and recover our country. Here are a couple of things which make our circumstance difficult. One is that the ideology is more diabolical than anything we've ever encountered before. David has made that clear. The other thing is that our present circumstances in the world make the simple act of establishing our affirmation of American founding and of our own experience of our love for God and life and faith. These are some of the things that exist in the world now that make it difficult. It's very difficult to be a champion of national sovereignty in an age of concrete global interdependence. We absolutely are interdependent. Even the economy, like there's a lot of anti-China stuff, and I get it, and I'm with it. China's a virtually declared enemy of the United States, in my experience. But the interdependence of global economy makes the affirmation and effort to establish national sovereignty a difficult challenge. It must be done. It absolutely must be done. I think some little help toward that is a family of nations. I think a family of nations does some of the bridging that keeps us away from globalism, which is the real threat to national sovereignty. The other thing, that's national sovereignty. Privacy and personal sovereignty guaranteed by the Declaration and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. There's a state-private behemoth of total surveillance and control. I don't think anyone in this room, if you do anything electronically, feels that there's not some part of your life that is surveilled. I use VPN, but I feel like much of my life is surveilled. At any moment, everything is known about me. And so the affirmation of our founding documents is much harder under the current circumstances. Finally, the age of AI, social media, and transhuman medical technology and identity interference. This reality is another thing that makes it difficult. Like, for example, supposing I get a bionic arm and to compete as a shot put guy. You know, do you see what I'm saying? These are the realities in which we're trying to find a way to make a simple affirmation of our faith, of our affirmation of God, of our pride in our identity as created, equal, free, and with inalienable rights. These make it harder. Plus the ideology is more diabolical. So then what in our founding documents, what our founders built this incredible country, what is sufficient? National sovereignty against globalism, private property, personal sovereignty against state and corporate controls, our God-given identity and value against identity politics. What is sufficient to keep those in check right now, given the circumstances I just described and given the ideology that David just described? Here, these are necessary and must be affirmed and must be always held up without any even an iota of wavering off the center on these. But there's one thing that happened, and David made reference to this earlier on in the lecture. The unity in America towards a more perfect union that our founders identified in the preamble to the Constitution. Basically, the ideal, that the universal equality that our founders identified was able to, the slide on the left shows that the European Christianity that was nothing but war harmonized in the United States of America. The vision of America, the work of our founders, the work of the framers, the construction of the Declaration and of the Constitution was sufficient. Did anybody hear the 30 Years' War between the Protestants and Catholics at the outset of the, yeah. Do you know why, anybody know why it ended? They ran out of people to kill. There was no more people left to kill. They could not, the war ended because, not because anybody won, nobody won. The population of Europe was decimated. That was Christianity. There's Christians. But in America, Christians get along. This was the vision of our founders, to find a more fundamental, what David referred to as civil religion, something more fundamental about our affirmation of God and God's love for us that makes us free, makes us equal, gives us inalienable rights, freedom to speak, freedom to gather, freedom of the press. These are unalienable. And the American founders recognized a more fundamental affirmation by which Christian parochialism finally died on our soil. And lovers of God are lovers of God, period, on our soil. This was the American Revolution. This is what made America the greatest nation on earth. It was the abandonment of small little differences. There's this, for churchgoers, there's this great joke about this guy's about to jump off of a bridge, and some guy finds him and he goes, "Oh, what's your problem? Is everything okay?" He goes, "Oh, I've had a hard life." He goes, "Are you a Christian?" "Yeah." He goes, "Me too." "What kind of Christian are you? Are you Catholic or Protestant?" "Protestant." Me too, I'm a Protestant too. What kind of Protestant are you? Lutheran? Are you Presbyterian? Baptist? I'm a Baptist. Me too, I'm a Baptist. This goes on and on. They're like, and he goes, are you Regional 3 First Baptist, 1936, no instruments? No, I'm a 1937. We have guitar in our church. Die, heretic! You know, so kicks him off the prison. So it's not a hard thing for Christians to find little things about one another, but in America they managed to rise above that. And what I'm saying when I'm talking about a new American revolution is that that's how America was formed, but this is how America evolved. Now, in the interim, in the last 200 years, every single type of human being has come to this country and has found hope and has found life. And they're here as Hindus. You know who are the richest Americans, right? They're Hindus, ain't they? Right? Aren't they? Yeah. Taoists, animists. We're fine. You're fine here. There's freedom of religion here. We love one another. But still, the parochialism in religion still exists. It still exists. And so what we were able to do once, to found the greatest country that ever lived, part of what we have to do now is to develop one more shot at getting rid of parochial bigotry. This is necessary. Right now, because we often, you've heard from the content, you can imagine, we're very often in conservative environments, right? Frequently at our meetings like this, there'll be people that say, they don't want to talk to you. If you don't know Jesus, they don't want to talk to you. I get that. It makes sense to me. I understand that. But we will die. America will die unless we can live completely into and completely up to the founding of our nation. There's a nation of religious freedom. And right now, right? Do you think you're going to find people who love family among the African animists? Do you think they're family people? Tremendous love of family, respect for elders, respect for ancestors. It's unparalleled. You're my ally right there. I don't care. I hope you meet Jesus, maybe. But that's not my affair right now. Our country is under such threat. I want to meet everybody that knows how to love their parents and love their ancestors, and every religion. And so, I'm saying that what must happen now, an American revolution to meet what David has just described and win, is to have a new America capable of the same miracle of what stopped European Christians from fighting, and to build this beautiful country. The range of Christian belief in America is just crazy. And the harmony among Christians to make our country a safe and beautiful place to live and raise our children was remarkable until these type of demonic forces of woke ideology, standpoint theory started to divide us from one another. There's a second thing. So I'm saying that there's a step up. There's a step up that we need to go in, self-examine, and get to. It might be hard. It might be hard. Religious boundaries are hard. But we cannot afford at this juncture to meet as pervasive and as thorough a philosophical relativism as David just described. The second thing I'm going to describe, and this is the conclusion of my lecture, and please try to follow this with me. It's very important for me. Liberty, individual liberty. Americans are born free, live free or die, right? That's us. Why do we love freedom? Just because it feels good? No, that's how we're created. It's how we're created by God. Okay. What has become of the freedom that God creates every human being with here in America? The freedom has become a freedom to involve ourselves in a range of perversity that is legally protected, that is, it's threatening the concept, the commitment to freedom. So should we curtail freedom? Should we curtail it? Is that the solution? Like have government kind of keep an eye on disinformation, misinformation, or say something hurtful to somebody? Oh, so freedom needs to be curtailed? No, you can't curtail it. Why can't you curtail it? Because it comes from God. You can't tell a tree not to be a tree. Human beings are born free. You can't curtail it. But why? And this is the additional thing. I asked in the prior slide, I asked for an additional thing. Don't just love your fellow Christians. We have to find a way to embrace every person that loves God and family, no matter if we never understand their beliefs. They have 100 gods. I don't want to know about that right now. Our country's in trouble. But why did God create human beings free? I'm sorry? Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. You cannot love unless you are free. It's that simple. It's the only, like, you've heard God is love, right? The only reason to give human beings freedom is that love is possible. Without freedom, you cannot love. That's just what the man said. So we wouldn't be robots. Okay. So the purpose of freedom, this is not overtly established in the founding documents of the United States. The only thing that's established in the documents is that we are free. That's a truth. But the purpose of freedom, because we've heard in prior patriots said, freedom is only possible for a moral people. And so when America was founded, it was a moral society. Church was respected. Everybody went to church. People respected their parents and family. There was a moral people. There is no longer the infrastructure of morality in America. And so now freedom is in trouble. So what I'm asking, in addition to a wider embrace across the capacity for beyond religious boundaries that we already established once, we did it once, and we can do it even more and better, and must. The second thing is not just freedom. Why? Why? The purpose of freedom. We as Americans, as the progenitors, as the pioneers of the truth that God created human beings free, need to know why now. We need to know the purpose of it. We can't rely just on the establishment of being a moral people, because we are no longer, but free people are not necessarily a moral people. It's just the condition of our country. So we need to go a step further. Why are we created free? So that we can love. Good. Okay, that's good. That's a Hallmark card. Okay, that's a Hallmark card. Okay, but what does love do? What does love cause to happen? Family. Love eventually creates families. That girl with the little ponytail in high school becomes my wife and becomes the mom of my kid. Love does that. It's where it goes. It's what it does. And so this is the second additional step that I want to put forward on this binary twin rail thing that we've been doing all day. We know that God created me. That much I know directly. We know that I'm created sovereign, equal, and free. Sovereign, equal, and free. But why? Why? I'm not saying you're created free so you can make a family. I'm from some family church, family I'm not saying go make a family, but I am telling you something logical. The same truth like to say, were you created? Did you create yourself? It's plain logic. Can you love without being free? It's logic. You don't have to be a moralist. You don't have to be anything. It's just what does love, what happens, what love does. It makes families. That's what it does. And so what I want to do is take the axioms. I'm sovereign. Nobody tells me what to do. I'm free. I'm equal. Everyone is equal to me. I'm equal to everyone else. That's great. I love it. I'm glad of it. But as a result of that, family happens. Family happens. And the interesting thing about family is that has everyone heard there's no freedom without responsibility? No freedom without responsibility. That's the problem. You got to insist. If you're going to talk about freedom, you have to talk about responsibility. I agree with that. But it's not a Hallmark card. I wouldn't send that to anybody on Valentine's Day. There's no freedom without responsibility. But okay, I get it. It sounds like a theoretical kind of thing. But here's the interesting thing. If we live in an age where religion is weak, where it's hard to create moral human beings or something like that, here's the interesting thing about what love does and what family does. And this is going to be, it's a little complicated. I don't want it to look like Foucault's, but I will be happy to try to give a test on this. There's parents. We're free. We got money. Go on vacation. Let's spend our money. Let's enjoy our lives. With children, freedom is met with responsibility. Organically, biologically, naturally. Freedom and responsibility happens in every place. Everything that happens in the family is by love. Nobody's telling me what to do. It's not by force. It's not by law. And then children are free. Run around in the park. Jump on the trampoline. Have monkey bars. Have fun. You're completely free. But before your parents, you're responsible. The family itself builds in with ease the fundamental conditions of morality. The thing that says only a moral people can be. Freedom is only possible for a moral people. Family does that for you, does that for us. And so, when children are free, brothers and sisters, free. Do what I want, ride my bike, go play wiffle ball, go play softball out in the field. But if my sister's in trouble, or she's failing math or something like that, or my mom can't get her from school, I gotta go get her. So family love, all family love is the built-in, it serves us now in an age where it's hard to rebuild old-fashioned religious structures. Some of us are lucky enough to be in churches. That's good. There's fairly strong Christianity in America, but society is very secular, very secular. But in the simple logic, one step beyond what the framers and founders introduced. We're free because we're created by God. What does that, why? Why are you free? Then you're just a common sense guy or lady. Same as, did you create yourself? Same as, why are you free? Can you love without freedom? You can't. And the beauty of that is that automatically weaves into human life freedom and responsibility. I'm not gonna go end up in the headlines for having crap on my computer if I got a bunch of kids or something like that. It reins us in. It did once what the church once did or something like that. It's the most beautiful system and structure. And then what we want to do is now we move out to citizenship organically ourselves, as we're meant to, not from the state. We're a member of the nation. Well, after family, then your family's part of a church or part of a club it's the first group of people that's not blood related. But you're bringing the same principles in. You're bringing the same principles in. And then your family goes out to be part of a community. And now you know how to behave as brothers and sisters. Most of us here would be like brothers and sisters mostly, more or less. Some of us might be like parents and children. Some older, there might be some young people around. Get it? Or there is even parents and children, Michael and Kai. The family provides the dynamic from which the expansion, our nation is built organically. It's built organically according to how the framers identified it. Free. Not by laws. The goodness of our country, the goodness of our culture, our power to resist what felt hopeless while David was talking. Felt hopeless is not hopeless at all. First thing I just say is, I know my identity. It's right there. That's the first like kind of atomic bullseye. I know my identity. Next question, next part of the conversation. Well, what is your identity? You look to me like a white guy. I said, yeah, I might look like a white guy. You don't know. Maybe I'm a light-skinned native Navajo. You don't know what I am anyway. But I'll tell you what my identity is: free, equal, unalienable rights. And furthermore, I'll tell you the purpose for my identity. And the purpose for identity is to bring those things, free, equal, sovereign, into every relationship we have, and then extend it to the exact same model into each and every development. After community comes district, like where you live. That's the first time there's people who you're responsible to who you never met. In your church or your club or your ball club or your choir, or you're responsible to people who you're not your blood relations. The next one out, responsible to people you never met. Now you're a good citizen of your state. Now you're a patriot of your nation. And you've done it organically. You've done it as an extension of your freedom. You haven't done it as an extension of state dominance, state control, state totalitarianism that's going to like watch what you say. I already watch what I say. I already watch what I say. I know how to watch what I say. I do not need some lady in Geneva telling me what I'm allowed to say. I already know what I'm allowed to say. I know what I would say in front of my mom or in front of my sister. This has built in the divine representation. So to conclude then, all I want to say is that America is sufficient. The founders are sufficient. But there's two things. One is a broader dissolving of a boundary. More acceptance of people's faith and religions. And a deeper grasp of the directional purpose of our freedom that comes because we're created by God. Thanks a lot.
That was historical. So I just like to, it's 3:30 now, so we're going to have to not have the question and answers. But what we can do is at my home, if you want to, you're all invited after this to my house, 2555 West Avenue, 134th. Anyway, we're going to have a gathering there. For the past couple of weeks, we've taught the 10 amendments here in this building to over 25 people. And also about sheriffs, their importance. So we're going to have a little graduation at my home, but all of you are invited to come right after this, to have a meal there, and to more, if you have questions, you can kind of go one-on-one with, right? Am I right, you guys? Right? Oh yeah, for sure. So there will be more available. We can have question and answers. So, and I just want to say myself also, I'm from Valley Forge, King of Prussia. It's called, but in Valley Forge, in King of Prussia's Valley Forge. And a few years ago, my niece got married at the chapel, Washington Chapel, and it was a priest and an Anglican priest and a Catholic priest. Anyway, 100 years ago, they would have been cutting each other heads off, but they're all together, two different people. So we've really come a long way, and so I just want to, yeah.
I'd like to sincere apologies for going on.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, but at least we got to.
I am. I'm going to do that. Okay. I'm going. Of course. Don, can you come? I'm going to introduce you. So I just want to, say that. That's why I wore my, 1776. Okay. So we're going to get the call for action in a minute. So the one moment, Don. I'm going to be. So we all have a defining moment in our lives. So starting with the bicentennial commemorations of the U.S. Constitution in 1987, Don and his wife Iris, they became the executive directors for the Greater New York area for the American Constitution Committee for 10 years. So their focus was on American leadership to help, which is what our program is about today, to help create a more greater union. So Don is going to now share something about a call for action, all right? The Continental Army, right? All right, let's go, Don. Don Sardella.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good to be with you. I'm going to be really succinct in the interest of time. I don't know about you. I feel like there's been a boatload of information we've been given here today, and I need some time to get this in bite-sized pieces. So I want to just leave you some action items. Fundamentally, what we do is communications and getting the best messages in front of the best people at the best time with the best resources. There's a sheet that was just circulated around. It's called your bonus handout sheet. We've gotten a lot of ideas here in terms of a critique, the best I've seen in years, looking for something like this. We've got some ideas in a direction for a counter-proposal and more to work with as part of this conversation we experience. So the question is, what can we do? What will we do next? If we had more time, I'd go into more elaboration. But one of the things I always like to do for myself, and I encourage other people to do, if you get an inspiration, think it, ink it. Does everybody have a pen? So on your paper, what I'd like you to do is write down some action step or some person you're going to speak to in the next 7 days, or what you're going to do for yourself to kind of keep the flame alive. And a couple of the ideas, I'm just going to keep this really brief. I mean, this has all been live streamed, it's recorded. Our team's planning to do post-production, 30-second clips, 1-minute clips. We use the whole social media apparatus. Why? We are in a digital world. We're on a digital stage. We have a global platform. I've been talking to people in Australia, Argentina, Italy, all over the place about what we're doing here, and just contacting leaders that I probably wouldn't approach before because I had nothing to offer them. I feel we have some real clay in the wheel to work with, so I want to encourage you to do that. Also, people are talking about having coffee clutches, grabbing some stuff at a Starbucks or a Pete, or whatever, or in your home doing a little watch party and watch segments, whatever, chat about it. Handouts, there'll be more resources coming down the track as we continue to find the best ways to partner with the incredible leadership of David and Frank and all the years that they put into formulating what we have so far. Really, if it is to be, it's up to me, right? So it's not only the more perfect union, like the United States. I've been thinking about this and talking about it with my wife. How can I make myself a more perfect union internally? In my own spirituality, my own divinity, and my own integration. How can we have a more perfect union in our family? And I can tell you we got some ground to cover there. And then how can we have a more perfect union in our communities? We're engaged in a process here. And one of the things about the time we live in, I don't think I have to say too much about it. You listen to the news for 5 minutes and it's easy to get clinically depressed. Oh my God. So we are in a marathon. This is a long game. And so part of it is how do we keep ourselves energized and fueled? We have to take great care of ourselves, take great care of each other. I love something that Frank said to me yesterday. Get the love, give the love. That's what we're about here, is, expanding the realm and the atmosphere and the circle of love and truth. So you determine for yourself, write down, at least for the next 7 days that you're going to do, to take some kind of action and keep it going. Get a study buddy. Have someone that you interact with, or 2 or 3 people on a regular basis. Keep the give and take up. Explore these different ideas. Anything and everything to help us evolve it. Additionally, sometimes people ask, how can I help? I know Mike was telling me about a great email he got from, we was doing some work to try to contact the son of Cleon Skousen, Paul Skousen, and he found a group in Fremont that's all fired up about their work. I'm planning to go up to Utah next month to try to meet with him. Part of that is, how can we contribute? Can we contribute money, contribute time? Can we invite you to speak? Can we come serve the coffee, sweep the floors? Whatever it is. How can we partner together and work together? Because we win when we help you win. The more we can help you to have more love and truth and freedom and tools and equipment, etc., we win. So that's what we're about here. It's great. I just want to keep it brief because it's already past our time. Same as if there's anything I can do, I'm basically here to be in service to Mike and the commitment what we're doing here in the Bay Area, but anything I do to be of service, let me know. I'll be happy to do everything I can to help. Great to see you around campus.
Yeah, so if you could please fill out that form, and then thank you so much for coming. God bless you all.